I'm a genius. I build robots for fun.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to get the presentation started. Good morning, good morning. I know it's been a lot of trying to figure out where you should go and finding the right location. So thank you for joining me in this presentation on your Saturday morning with me. So early. I'm going to be speaking with you all about project planning, project management, and the techniques that you could use and some items that you can consider for building robots with respect to FIRST Robotics. Going on to my next slide. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to do a quick welcome, do an overview of myself, then we'll go into a little bit of a background on FIRST Robotics and give you all the content. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to go pretty fast. But if you have questions, raise your hand, and I'll try to address them. At the back end, there'll also be a Q&A. So I haven't introduced myself. Good morning. My name is Deigratiadaniels, and I'm the Director of Operations at a technology company called Futurist. And what I do at Futurist is I use video game technologies to create unique experiences. So virtual reality, augmented reality, and of course, just random video games all over the place. 3D modeling, software programming, audio production. I get to play and dabble in the latest technologies such as the Microsoft HoloLens and the forthcoming HoloLens 2, and then the augmented reality platforms such as Magic Leap. Have y'all heard of those items? Yeah, those are some cool toys, right? I am a graduate of Florida A&M University. This is where I got my undergrad in engineering. Then I went on for a master's in engineering at University of Central Florida, and I am a proud alumni of the Marching 100. I'm a band nerd. Absolutely. Most of my engineering career was at Lockheed Martin, and it was a very, very fun experience where I got to play with some advanced technologies such as various armored vehicles and tanks, and also items like the F-35, the C-130, and the F-22. You know, those were my offices. And you can see here in some of these pictures, this is one of the flight simulators of a C-130. And basically inside that, we put the whole entire cockpit of the aircraft into a virtual reality environment. You can see the cockpit here, and it's a wraparound dome. And it's just a big, massive video game that governments and other organizations use to train their pilots. This is a high fidelity simulator. They can actually train on this their entire, through the entire training program and come out with a pilot's license. That's how real it is inside there. You can see some of the other vehicles that I worked on. This is an M1A1. This looks like a Bradley, and this is a Hummer that is inserted into a back of a semi-trailer. So there was a need to deliver trainers rapidly to remote locations. So within the span of 9 months, we developed this Humvee, and it's in a semi-trailer, and it starts out like so, and then it expands out, and you have this big, massive area, training area inside this trailer. Typically, it takes about 2 years to design and build something, and we were able to turn something around in 9 months. So my background is virtual reality and the various technologies that come along with it. I've been working with FIRST Robotics for over 10 years now. My home teams are FRC Team 1001. Anybody in here? No? Okay. My other home team is FRC Team 3091, 100 Scholars. Anybody here from there? Hey, no worries. Moving on. So there are a couple of different ways you can address project planning. You can go through it having an understanding of what you want to build, or you can iterate through it and try things over and over. Those type of methods have names. One is waterfall, and the other one is agile. So the waterfall method is probably for a veteran team. They consume the rules, understand the requirements, and know exactly what they want to build when it comes to a robot. They'll come through and define the requirements. This is the strategy, reading the game rules, come up with some design, and then they'll go out and build it. They already know what they want. They know what manipulators, what sensors, what programming software package is going to use. Then on the back end, they're going to take it to the field and run it. The agile development cycle is like the waterfall, but just multiple iterations of it. So again, you start out with reading your rules. Are the rules out yet? No. Not yet? Okay. So you start off reading the rules and understanding the game. And this is where most teams will find themselves. They start the planning and start the design. And they would try many, many different things. Try prototyping, try researching, looking on YouTube. And they try this manipulator, oh, it doesn't work that well. I'm going to try another set of clause. That style is called agile. So this is a high-level method of the way the teams have or will use for planning and managing projects. So after you read the rules, after you set all these goals and accomplishments, these things you want to do, there's models out there. And I say use the SMART model. So when you set goals and objectives for your team, the leaders, coaches, and all the members of the team, these are some good guidelines to help you achieve those goals on a short-term and a long-term basis. So the SMART model, be specific, be as exact as you can on what it is you want to accomplish. Measurable, try to be able to bound it, constrain it by some value. Either, hey, I'm going to have this manipulator working within 1 week, right? You give yourself a time. Attainable, make it something that's realistic, right? Sometimes I know we get excited about building robots and we want to make this amazing robot, but we have to scale that back sometimes based on our resources and based on the time that we have, right? Make it relevant. Make sure the thing that you want to do, the thing that you're trying to accomplish, helps achieve the goal. So you got the rules. Again, I can't stress the rules and understanding the game enough. Make sure the things you do are relevant to what you're trying to achieve. Again, as I mentioned up here with measurable, time bound, try to constrain whatever it is that you're doing so that you can plan for it and apply the appropriate resources and time. Okay? So here are some planning elements. What I looked at is I took the project management and the things that we do, and I looked at the things that typically happens when building robots. So some may be more FRC, more so than FTC, but in building robots, these are the generic items. So when planning, these are things you want to consider and allow yourself time to do. Reviewing the rules, it's my favorite thing right here. All right, so reviewing the rules will help the team come up with the strategy, scoring, understand how to get the points, and teaming, right? Some of the game elements require teaming. So you may have a defensive strategy, or you may have an offensive strategy, or maybe your robot can do both, right? Understanding the rules helps the strategy, you get to all that. Essential features for most of the robots. Gotta have a drivetrain, right? Gotta have something to manipulate the world, or to push the world, or move the world. The robot needs to sense the world, and then software programming. These are the basic subcomponents. There are more items out there than that, but these are the things you want to figure out first. FTC, you have more flexibility because you can change parts faster. You can bring them in, change, and try different things. FRC, this becomes very critical because it's only a 6-week period, and it's really, really short amount of time. So you want to get those nailed down up front. Non-essential features, items that you can figure out later, hey, it'd be cool if I could put a conveyor belt and it did this thing. You could probably work on items like that later, right? If it's not critical, right, that's critical. Maybe some other items aren't. Maybe you wanted to use a camera for vision and vision control. I remember one year they had an Xbox Connect as for vision. Some of those items are non-essential. You can develop those later. All right, other things, getting into the flow of the development process of planning, design. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. So, anybody familiar with Robot in 3 days? Oh, yeah. Right? That team, that's an amazing team of technical individuals and engineers and designers. They spend all day and come up and build a robot based on the rules that are released in 3 days. And they live stream or either put it on YouTube, but they pretty much document it all. You know, that's a notion. And that team, Robot in 3 days, inspires a lot of other teams for building robots. It helps teams start, maybe think about some items that they hadn't thought about. You know, so that's the notion of, hey, you can go out there and see what other people are doing. A notion of design technique is elaborate and brainstorm. This is when you get your team in a room, you all talk, figure out, throw some things on a whiteboard and hammer it out. Modeling. I haven't had a lot of experience with modeling, but there are teams and there are individuals who will build a robot in 3D space. They'll use CAD materials, CAD software packages, and see what the robot will do in a virtual environment, in a digital environment. And then prototype, build phase. This allows you, like, hey, just throw some stuff on the robot, see what works, right? I'm gonna get the drivetrain going, I'm gonna throw this manipulator and see what happens. This is where I typically end up most of the time. I'll build a prototype, see if it works, and if it does, I'll put it on the robot. After you design, you get everything complete, you know, of course, allow time for testing. If you can, you want to have a solid test run of your robot before it goes to the field. I know time is tough, you know, you're figuring out things, but this is a big one. Test your robot if you can. If you have access to fields, I know there are Destination Einsteins in the area, definitely get to them, test your robot as much as you can. Some ancillary items that go on through the robotics season, awards and accolades, so you go after various awards. If those are some things that you want to achieve, you know, give yourself time and some resources to go after those. Some of them require writing papers, some of them require creating videos. And funding, right? You know, you got to have a team. That's more so in the coaches, but you got to keep that money flowing in so you can support the team and achieve the goals and have the resources that you want to achieve all your items. And then last thing, this is more so FRC, bag and ship. I know sometimes it takes a while. We're up like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. trying to get our robot bagged, ready to get shipped out the next day. So be sure you account for that and have some time to do that. Okay, so I talked about all those elements of planning and all those items and accolades and designs and the methods. The way to manage that is through trade-offs. And this is called the triangle of constraint, or golden triangle, or iron triangle. As a project manager, this is what I use to manage all my work, and I manipulate 3 things at all times: resources, technicality, the scope, what do you want to do, and then how much time I have. Between these 3 items, you're able to manipulate the project and the items that you're trying to achieve. Just a real quick example: if you are short on time, you can add more resources to help achieve that goal within a time constraint, or you can reduce the scope in order to meet this time deadline. So sometimes you have this massive goal that you want to do, but the time may not allow you to achieve that. So you'll pull back the goal, the scope, the technicality part of it. And I go from the other side. So I'm short on resources. So what I would do if I need 4 people and I only have 2, I can extend the time to do that task and give them an extra week, right? Or again, here it is, I will reduce the technicality scope if I only have limited resources. Okay, any questions so far? Good? Awesome. All right, some planning elements and some things in consideration on competition day. Has anyone been to FTC, FRC competition? Show of hands. There we go. Yeah. It's a lot going on that day, right? Absolutely. Up here on this chart, these are items to consider and maybe, to talk about before you go to the event, wherever the competition is at. I know when we get there, my personal experience, we get there and I'm like, oh man, I forgot about this. Oh, need to go do that. But if you put some upfront thought on it, you may be able to attack it a little faster. So competition day, FRC, you got to go get your robot, find out and unbag it. You get it all ready. Whatever components that you brought, you need to get it onto the robot as well. So consider this, things that you're going to have to do on competition day. You got to get your tools and equipment from wherever the truck is at. So you got to park, push them all the way through the parking lot, drag them through the loading area, and get that all set up. There's a pit component, right? So teams that have very elaborate pits, with projectors and music and lights, those would need some time and probably a pit team to set that up. All right, robot maintenance team. This is where I see this kind of get lost in the shuffle of the day, but having a dedicated robot maintenance team or even schedule, folks are cycling in over time where everyone gets to work on a robot. But when that robot comes back from the field, this is more so FRC, this team needs to be ready to go because it's a short amount of time between matches to get to repair whatever you need to repair or to modify something. Also, drive team, having your drive team identify. Maybe they're going to cycle through different iterations of who's driving, who's the captain, who's going to be the driver. Have a plan. Maybe you want everyone to drive on the team or be part of the competition team, or maybe it's just one team that does it the whole day. So that's an item to consider and to think about. And safety first, right? Have someone or several individuals that are responsible for, ensuring that the pit and the team is acting in a safe and responsible manner, right? I haven't seen anything happen on any competition, and I think it's because FIRST has a high standard when it comes to safety. They reiterate safety, safety, safety. Some other things to do on competition day, networking. This is very important. Networking today, networking any of the events, networking at during competition. Like I said earlier, there are some partnering and strategies that are developed. So, go out there, talk with the teams that you see are doing the things that you want, right? Ask for help. If you're struggling with items, ask for help. If someone comes to you, give them help. This is a co-opetition, right? Love that term that FIRST came up with. Networking, you may need a tool. Some teams bring high-end machining equipment. So, definitely go scope out that. If you only bring a bag of, a couple of tools, you may be able to partner, network, and leverage someone else's tools. And then again, you want to market your team, right? Go out there and sell yourself so people will pick you to partner with. And then, hey, we're in a social media age. If someone's available to do some camera work, video work, post stuff in real time, that'd be awesome too. All right, so I really appreciate the values and skills that FIRST shares and teaches amongst all of us, younger individuals and older individuals. There's something in here for all of us. And they have an amazing values. And I just wanted to share this again with you because this is at the core of what you all are doing here. Exploring and coming up with new ideas and skills. The people in this room will invent the future and will change what we know as the truth today, right? Innovation, right? I can only imagine the things that will come in the decades to come. I know where I was at when I was a kid, and things have changed so much. Impact. This group of individuals is so helpful and team and community focus. The impact that you have on our society is amazing. And you've all maybe heard or have heard that FIRST Robotics, or individuals with FIRST robotic experiences, are highly sought after in the technical world when being considered for a job or an opportunity. Inclusion, again, this group is, I'm looking out amongst the crowd and it's such an amazing group of individuals, so many diverse faces. So first is embrace this with so much passion. Teamwork, as it says up here, cooperation, right? You know, we're here as a team, you know, we're trying to win something, but we do it with gracious professionalism. Again, these are amazing things that FIRST helps us understand through the core values of FIRST. I put this one in here just to reiterate, you know, when you're out there, don't be afraid of anything. Things aren't going to work when you first try it. That's normal. Failure is part of the learning process. You know, when you're in there and you have a short amount of time, you know, try to be as focused as you can. Time is valuable, and other people's time is valuable. As students, you know, they got homework and all sorts of other projects going on. Commitment. If you said you're going to do something, go ahead and do something. Respect others and be as open as you can. Any questions on that? Well, that was my last slide. I'll open it up for anybody if they have any questions. Yes, please.
You talked a lot about rules. You kind of harked on that a couple times. And as a first-time coach, mentor, what do you think is the most important thing to pay attention to as it pertains to the rules for somebody who's just now coming in to teach?
FTC or FRC?
FTC.
FTC. So the items that I would recommend for a first-time coach for FTC is, again, understanding those rules. And there are plenty of videos out there from FIRST that will have animation and examples of the game. So you can understand a lot about that. But when it comes to the scoring, they can get really technical about how you score. So pay attention on the items of scoring, right? You know, what are the ways to get points? Because you can build all this robot and does all this stuff, but if it doesn't get you any points, you know, it's not helping you. Scoring would be one of the items. And then the constraints are the requirements. So sometimes there are requirements that a robot can't be taller than some certain height, or it can't be over a certain weight. So understanding those constraints. So when you get to competition day and you know your robot is being inspected, you don't have to go modify something. So those are some of the key items to look at. All right. Yes, please.
Yeah, so you discussed inclusion as one of the the core values. Are there any ways you would recommend for new members to help get them involved and included in the community?
So I'm just going to rephrase and make sure I understand your question. You're asking that as a team already formed and the team wants to bring in new individuals?
Yeah, just for new member recruitment, how to keep them engaged.
Okay. What at a school, high school level, middle school level?
Yes, high school level.
Okay. High school level, bringing in new members. Well, I can recommend one thing is social media, is right. You know, continue to advertise and market and talk about your team. You can host various events. So maybe during the day you can work with your faculty and staff and say, hey, we want to have a show off our robots and things that we do day, right? Bring them in, maybe during a lunch period, maybe just after school or maybe during the day sometime. What else could I recommend? Ask to talk about or write up something on the school's newsletter that can publicize the things that you're doing on a regular basis. And maybe you can say, hey, we're looking for individuals, contact person at XYZ. Okay?
So, yeah, I think just to clarify a little further, we tried some of those things, we brought out some robots and demonstrated during one of the lunch periods, and we had great success, right? So, I mean, previously we had about 8 or 9 to 10 active members. And then all of a sudden, 50 people showed up in the engineering lab one day. We were kind of whoa, overwhelmed. I guess what we were wondering is how can we take the people who are coming in and keep them engaged, right? Especially when there's when there's a low ratio of like experienced members to new members, right? So there's like at least 6 unexperienced people who have no like robotics experience for every one person who's been on the team for a while.
Yeah.
So any suggestions there?
That's a tough one. I'm going to try to answer it, but it is a tough one. It goes back to some of these items I talked about earlier, and being able to decompose the project into small consumable chunks. So the veteran team members would hopefully have an understanding of what needs to happen for the season. So maybe the leaders, the team leaders, the captains of the team can look at the project for the season and decompose it into these items, and then take those new individuals, assign them to these components. If maybe you have a new person that's very, very experienced in software programming, put them here and say, hey, we need to have this developed really soon. Take a look at the software package and get started. Give them an assignment, something they can do. Maybe you have a new person that has 0 experience. Partner them with a veteran that's doing something, and get them involved in some sub-assembly, something that they can build. Or maybe they want to read the rules and design something, but kind of poll them, see what they want to do, and get them into that.
Yeah. So just a follow-up question. In your experience, do you think it's better to like try to, for the inexperienced members, do you think it's better to like try and come up with this sort of like education program where you try to just teach them like the fundamentals of CAD, or
you'll spend all your time making
or is it better to just have them like come along for the ride with an experienced member as they try to like go through the development of the subsystem?
So the answer to that, yes, but the gentleman here was hitting a valid point. So if your team has the resources and the time to do that, absolutely, give them a training program. If it's just 6 or 7 of y'all, you may have difficulty creating that content. However, this is the age of social media. You can quickly pull out a camera, talk to it, and give it to someone. So it could be just that simple. You have to figure out amongst yourselves, the team. But yeah, I do advocate for training programs, training curriculums. With that being said, FIRST and a lot of teams have developed training curriculums and items and documents out there, which you may be able to leverage and just use as is and give to your teammates, your new teammates. Okay?
We have been struggling with some similar issues, and so we've been trying to implement mentorship programs and put inexperienced members with members who have the same interests as them to kind of help they can contact after robotics if they have questions that couldn't be answered during the time span, and just things like that. So we're implementing that this year and seeing how it goes.
Interest helps.
What was that?
I said interest helps.
Yep, absolutely.
What they care about.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
During the building phase of the competition, how much time would you recommend allotting and preparing for at the end to have for testing on the robots?
FTC or FRC? That's a tough one too. Okay, because the FRC is inherently complex. Let me think of an example of how we're doing on time. Let's take a game like the game that had the big balls, and you had to, or the last year was put the cogs on the spaceship, right? Okay. And the reason why it's tough to answer, because it would depend on how much of the game the team will want to try to compete in. So I'm just going to make one up. A team that fully wants to be defensive and a scoring robot, that's probably one of the most complex robots, and also wants to do the autonomous mode up front. Let's think of a robot with that type of complexity. How much time up front? As soon as that team gets that robot and gets the game, they should be programming and designing that day, right? So how much time do you want? If you can pump something out, a 70 or 75% solution within 3 weeks, that would be a good general planning phase or duration. Giving yourself a week and some change to modify whatever you come up with, and to test and more test. But that's really aggressive. It would depend on the size of the team and the resources that team will have. Okay. Yes, please.
Same question but for FTC.
FTC. FTC is a little bit different because theoretically, a team could fully change the robot in a day, right? And that's what happens. I see a team will change the robot 5 or 6 times before a competition. I'm like, just pick one and just roll with that. There's more flexibility with the FTC teams. It's hard to answer that one as well. If the team, I say, right up front, I'm still thinking because there are multiple regionals and now states. You got so many competitions. I can't constrain the date. So I will say have a robot. I'm gonna do it backwards. If you can have a solid robot in place a week before some competition time frame, that's probably a good duration to be prepared by. That will give the team some time to test, change some things if they want, and lock stuff down. That would be my recommendation with FTC. Pick a robot and build that as opposed to building 5 or 6 different designs. Okay. All right. I got one more, maybe 2 more. You have one?
So let's say your numbers jump from 28 to 100 plus. How would you say we could manage that?
Man, that's great. That's a great predicament to be in. Shouts out to that. How to manage that? This is tough. So at that level, at that point, the team, so that FRC, the team is going to need to rely on the mentors, the coaches, and the team leadership to help manage all those individuals. You start talking about funding really becomes an item on time management and communications, right? Making sure everyone has the information so they know where they need to be and what time they need to be there. At that size, you're going to need some folks who are experienced at managing large teams. Of course, the veteran team members can help because they've done it a while, but ask for some help. Hey, we need more mentors to help us to manage all this. Get more coaches if you can. But that's what I recommend. You're going to need a larger management staff to help manage all those individuals. Okay, I saw a hand up here somewhere. Yes.
What would you say would be a good way to organize the first 6 weeks?
Say that again?
A good way to organize the first 6 weeks in the first year.
Oh, okay, good way, right here. So let's see if I got it up.
Did you say his question?
Yes, the question was, what would be a good way to organize the first 6 weeks of FRC build season? All right, you can use this right here as a map. Read the rules, strategy, do these on day 1 and come up with this item. Your team can get in there and come up with a strategy and then come up with a simple design up front. Once you understand the rules, you'll have an idea of what type of drivetrain you want up front. Design, and then at the back end of those 6 weeks, you want to test. So the bulk of these items here are what you want to do your first 6 weeks. Okay, I saw a hand over here somewhere. Yes, please.
Okay, so we're an FTC high school team. How would you recommend balancing a lot of schoolwork and robotics time at the same time? So for example, we're thinking of implementing logging and tracking hours for our team members so that we can keep them committed. Would you recommend a system like that?
So I have to give all the students props for being able to manage FRC and all the other things that go on in their lives. It's really amazing to watch. You all can accomplish a lot. So the recommendation, how to balance that, you asked 2 questions. So how to balance that and then about logging. The balance part will be up to the student for the most part, and maybe a little bit of their parents and coach. It is a lot of things that students today are asked to do. I've seen students who are valedictorians, manage all these other competitions going on as well as being involved in FIRST Robotics. I don't have a lot of insight on how y'all accomplish that, but I've seen y'all do it. And shouts out to y'all for doing that. Logging, I do recommend logging because you can use those hours for other accolades on the back end. The people who have money love metrics, right? So the folks who are giving funding, like you can say, hey, we've worked 1,000 hours as a team. They're like, hey, you know, here's another 50K, good work, right? But I mean, but it can be overwhelming trying to manage and track all that information. Okay. Okay, I can take one more question, and you, yes, please.
So, as an FRC team, there's a lot of different opinions in the building season. So there's a lot of conflicts sometimes. How would you recommend like resolving those conflicts?
That one's a little tough. So it'll depend on the makeup of the team. So my project management style is that as the leader, I typically will design and have an idea of what the thing is going to look like up front. So some teams will ask the captains to do that. Not every team does that. But the veteran individuals will come up with the design. And then through that, I say, here's the design, and then I'll take in feedback. That's my personal management style. On a team such as First Robotics, where they're more open and more inclusive, bringing in and taking in ideas is a little tough because you got to consider everything. So there are a couple of ways you can deal with it. You can, be democratic about it. Whatever is the most popular one, whittle it down that way. Or you can have a leadership structure, someone who's just going to make a determination, or a leadership board where, hey, these 3 individuals are going to determine what design is going to look like based on the feedback that we receive from the team. So that's a tough one. I know that's hard. It's like, and folks get really passionate about their ideas, right? And that's why it's important to listen to everyone's idea, and then as a team, try to make a democratic decision on it. But yeah, those are some good ones for you.
So like, how would you deal with the people who like don't necessarily agree with the robot design? Like, how would you kind of like settle with those people?
Maybe it might be good to have an upfront conversation. Say, hey, we're gonna make this design as a team, and we being your team, we're gonna listen to everyone's ideas, but not all the ideas will be incorporated. So maybe upfront, like, hey, we're gonna do our best and we're gonna be open, but we're gonna have to make some decisions, and everything individuals may think of may not make it into the robot. And then on the back end, talk with them, just like, hey, we understand, but explain why the decision was made to go with something else, as opposed to what they suggested. Just open communication and dialogue. Okay.